Okay, so thank you all for joining us today to discuss the topic of sustainability in fashion. Fashion makes a huge contribution to humanity's global carbon emissions. In fact, I think it's somewhere around 10% of humanity's emissions can be attributed to the textile industry. And its impact doesn't stop there. Water consumption is also a huge issue. I read a stat yesterday that astounded me. 215 trillion litres of water are used by the fashion industry each year. And the vast overproduction of fast fashion and the waste that it creates is also hugely damaging, both environmentally and also ethically when it comes to the treatment of many garment workers around the world. Today, we are joined by two fantastic speakers who are tackling these problems head on. We're joined by Szilvia Turi from Redivivum Technology, who are bringing smart automation to the textile sorting sector. They're dealing with waste collection, and after used textiles have been collected, their technology automates and sorts which garments should go where, meaning more efficient and more accurate recycling. We're then joined by Tanya Saha Gupta from Resale Future, who help fashion. They have a B2B platform which helps fashion brands to embed a circular business model by giving them their own branded resale platform on their website. So one is focused on reducing overconsumption and the other on ensuring we recycle better. So without any further ado, I'm pleased to introduce Szilvia to you.
Hi everyone, it's really nice to be here and it's a pleasure to tell you more about my own journey and our startup. So I'm just going to share my screen for a few slides. Okay, so we are the company of Redivivum, an early stage startup, and as Sherry mentioned already, we are working to tackle the textile waste issue. So basically, after you can drop off your old clothes in street containers, for example, or you can bring back to the store. I assume many of you have been doing this, but what happens after these garments are collected? This is the question. Usually all of this stuff gets sorted at industrial sorting facilities. You would see hundreds of people sorting these garments by hand, as you can see on the small pictures on the slide. And this is a pretty outdated concept. So our idea is to bring in automation with a smart system that is leveraging the power of data and machine learning algorithms. So we can automate the whole process of characterizing and identifying still reusable textiles and picking out the very low qualities. We are at the very early stages of the journey, but we have been through the amazing incubator of the Mills Fabrica in London. So there are a lot of great opportunities ahead. I think that's all about what we do. And I think later at the Q&A, you can ask me anything related to the startup specifically. But I was thinking that maybe it would help more people to actually give a bit more about how I ended up here. So a few years ago, I was studying in London, doing a fashion business degree. So I had kind of the usual opportunities of getting into the industry to do marketing, buying, or sales, for example. But I was not really interested that much in any of those. And I really wanted to get into the sustainability space. So my own experience was that because this new sustainability department at the fresh and brand level has just been set up a couple of years ago, they either bring in very experienced executives from other areas to run these departments or look for people with more scientific engineering backgrounds to do the job around GHG calculations and supply chain. So I didn't have any of these backgrounds. So the only way was for me is to start learning all of the things around fashion. And after a few years, I had the opportunity to get a conversation with the department lead in a big fashion brand, and they offered me the first ever job in sustainability. So the point of my own story is that basically, I don't think you need a specific degree to get into sustainability, even though it can seem first. But if you keep learning about all of these topics and know all of these things that these people work on a daily basis, you will be offered a chance to be part of these departments. So because it's a huge and complex supply chain, I tried to break it down to the main stages, because you can choose either of these. It's going to be a lot of different learnings and work to do. So for example, at the beginning of the chain, there is the design process. So you would mostly work around zero waste design principles and new technologies to design out the most possible waste during the process. You could either go also to sourcing and manufacturing, which is very exciting. It's a lot about sourcing different textiles, assessing suppliers, the GHG emissions arising from different manufacturing processes. And also there are the circular business models, so for example, rental, resale, and repair. These are all emerging business models. And usually you would find them with big companies, startup companies who has brought in these digital channels to the industry. And also there is the end of life and recycling part where I started to specialize. So what you would do here is mostly around different recycling technologies, take back schemes for fashion brands. So there is a lot of different things to do there as well. And what I also found really useful through my own learning journey is to use kind of these sources. So please feel free to take a screenshot, for example, because these are really helped me when I decided to actually start learning by myself. So for example, I would really recommend to read all the industry reports that are coming out, take notes, so really understand what the industry is thinking about, what's going on in the industry about sustainability. Also, there are a lot of research papers coming out from different institutions with very, very good resources around greenhouse gas emissions, for example. And also, I would recommend to follow NGOs and industry organizations because they are also organizing a lot of events where you can meet these decision-making people who lead these departments. And also, they are having amazing resources. So I would say that these definitely can help anyone to get the knowledge that will help you also to get your foot in the door when wanting a sustainable job in the fashion industry. Yeah, I think that was my bit. So later on, please feel free to ask me any questions related to this or my own startup. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Szilvia. And yeah, really love that slide about how you can bring sustainability into play at every single phase of that supply chain and the different things to consider throughout. I thought it was brilliant. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I really appreciate it. And Tanya from Resale Future, are you happy to share your slides with us now?
Hi guys. Yeah, I'm trying to share and it says only one participant can share at a time. So I'm not sure
That's
why.
strange. Should we try again? Do you want to try again?
Yeah,
let me take that off. Right, try again.
Yeah, it's working now. Thanks.
Awesome.
Hi guys. So just to give you a bit about our business. So I recently started a business that's essentially helping fashion brands incorporate a marketplace within their own e-commerce store. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen that, you know, the Zaras and the H&Ms of the world, they're all making a circular marketplace so that you can send back or, you know, sell your clothes that you've bought from them. But what I was seeing is that unfortunately the brands that are actually producing sustainably, who are actually producing, you know, in smaller scales, are kind of getting left out because of, you know, not having those tech capabilities. So we set out to build this platform for them and create it in such a way that it's just a plugin. So they can plug it in and, you know, set it up pretty easily. So a very shocking stat that I saw, I mean, we all have clothes in our wardrobe that when we know we're never going to wear again, but it's still in our wardrobe and we haven't sold it, we haven't given it away, it just sits there. I mean, the stat is in the UK, 74% of an average wardrobe will never get touched again and never get worn again. So I started to think about, well, you know, these are actual assets in everyone's wardrobes and assets for the brands. You know, brands don't know that they sell their items and then never ever get to see what happens to them again. And I thought it would be really interesting if brands actually have access to their idle assets in wardrobes and how they're able to, you know, either be able to resell it, repair it, rent it. I wanted to create a system where brands get access to it and, you know, we make it easier for consumers to actually sell their items. So just to give you a bit of a story of how I sort of got into this, I grew up in India where, you know, fashion is something that is really celebrated in that country. We have tons of artisans creating, you know, from the range of Western garments to Indian garments. It's pretty amazing. But at the same time, you also have a booming export industry. But what you see is that these factories actually exist within the cities, and you see the fumes that are produced from it. Like the air quality in the city I lived was terrible. It's getting much worse. You see the rivers, and it's dyed with color from the factories, and it's pretty crazy that when I moved to the UK as a teenager, it was very crazy for me to see how consumption existed in the West. So, the idea of a throwaway culture of wearing items once and then never wearing it again was very, very shocking to me as a teenager. And I always felt like, I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to, at the time, Airbnb was just starting, the Uber was just starting. It was sort of the boom of the sharing economy. But it still seemed like fashion and the resale of fashion was quite behind. The likes of Depop and Vinted were sort of just starting, and I thought it was brilliant, the way everyone was being able to now connect. But there was still a massive hurdle with all of it, and that is selling items was still very time consuming. It still takes a lot of effort for people to take the picture, to put in the details, to answer the questions that potential buyers have. And I thought, look, we need to make this more efficient as a process. After university, I sort of went into, okay, how can I learn as much as possible about business? I started my career in finance, working with tech companies, and I got exposure to working with different types of tech companies, marketplace businesses, and understanding how things can be made more efficient. And eventually took the big decision to start my own company. I realized when I wanted to start something in the sustainable fashion space that there is so many people that are actually trying to do good in this space. And I attended as many events as possible. I mean, if you're fortunate to live in a city, there are a lot of events, but also online. Over COVID, there were a lot of events such as this one, where we get to exchange ideas, get to speak to a lot of people, and I think that's super important in trying to really build something that solves a problem that actually exists. I think a lot of people are trying to solve problems in the startup space that are nice to have, but probably aren't pain points and painkillers for people in that industry. So I got an opportunity to speak to a lot of fashion brands, particularly the small to medium-sized businesses, and try and understand what is it that is your problem. Like what are your biggest challenges? Forget sustainability. What are your biggest challenges? What is something that is a real pain point for you? And and then you kind of start to understand how they can think about sustainability, because they're going through a lot of struggles. A lot of one thing that I saw is that actually fashion brands, they're really struggling with all the competition. There's no brand loyalty anymore. Customers come and shop, buy something, and then they're price shopping. You're not loyal to a brand if you like their items, if you like their quality. There's also a lot of compliance issues that are coming up for brands, and the H&Ms and the Zaras, they have a massive law teams that can deal with this, but actually the small brands are struggling with complying to the upcoming regulation. And they also see that there is a lot of issues with advertising at the moment. It's really difficult to be advertising on Meta at the moment, just because Apple's changed its laws of privacy, and it's become very expensive to acquire customers. I think once I started to understand what brands are really experiencing, it was much easier for me to solve their problem and help them become sustainable and produce a solution that can help them with all of these issues, as well as be a circular business model. So that's sort of how we came up with the idea eventually, and how we came up with the idea of helping small brands. And we were able to provide them the tech support, the customer support, the logistic support, and also give buyers that protection, so that when they do sell items, they know that they can trust it. Yeah, and that's basically what our business is, and how I sort of came to this journey of realizing what I wanted to do and how I could use my skills in sort of finance and tech in building something that I hopefully helps fashion brands and the consumer.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tanya. And that stat, about 74% of an average UK wardrobe never being worn again.
Yeah,
It's shocking,
it's
isn't it?
crazy. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I've got a sister who I would say is up in the 90s on that stat, probably. But yeah, that's phenomenal. Okay. Well, thank you both so much for sharing those slides with us.